Are you kidding me? CGC just updated all their prices and they are just, better. Well, in some ways it's better, and in some ways it's worse. We're going to talk about what this means for you in both ways today. Kind of depends on what type of submitter. Are you submitting major old keys, or are you a modern submitter? We're going to look at every single new change and what that means for every single type of comic book submitter. Let me first start by saying I've been noticing CGC's been getting a lot of hits lately from the comments and stuff like that because of return times and things like that. It used to be 50-day return times, but right now it's a lot higher. And here's where I stand on that. Some of these books waited 10, 20, 40, 70 years to get graded. They can wait 3 months rather than 2 months. Whatever. These changes were just announced on April 21st, and it's a direct result of CGC expanding to account for more business, to include the trading cards, extra staff on magazine, processing, customer service, everything. But what's interesting is some things did go up, but some things went down, and some things just simply have a much better defined process right now. Why don't you go ahead and hit that like button, and we're gonna dive in. So first up, guys, let's take a look at what's changed on your actual memberships. Looks like it's still the same $0, $25, $150, and $300 amounts for the free, associate, premium, and elite memberships. But the biggest thing I noticed is, and especially as a member of the $300 elite club, I used to get 15% off of CGC grading tiers. The 150 got 10% off the CGC grading tiers. Even the silly little $25 associates got 5% off the CGC grading tiers. Now, what I noticed about the new one is it doesn't say 5, 10, and 15% off the CGC tiers. It says 10% off the CGC store. So what does that mean exactly? I'm not quite sure. I do see we still get the $150 credit for the premium and the elite memberships, but it looks like only elite now mentions 10% off the CGC grading tiers. And remember, elite used to be 15% off. So looks like more than ever, you really want to get the elite tier. And unfortunately, it's not as awesome as it used to be. I still need to find out a little bit more about what that 10% off at the CGC store means. It used to be the main incentive was getting the percentage off the actual grading tiers. I guess we're just gonna have to find out. Alright guys, and the next thing we're gonna talk about, which will probably impact most of you the most, is the modern and value tier being merged. So for the longest time, whenever you submitted anything from 1975 all the way until today to CGC, that was declared as a modern book. But you were always stuck that if it was valued at over $200, you ended up having to put it at the value or economy tiers because the cheapest modern submission, the $20 one, only allowed books valued at $200 or less. Well, now they've combined modern and value so that when you submit books, you can put the value up to $400 and you pay a set price of $22, which admittedly is up from $20, but for a lot of people like me that submitted a lot of value books, this lower price is much appreciated, and the ability to mark my books up to a $400 value greatly helps with what I'm able to submit for my dollar amount. And that brings me to the next one, which is the economy tier. This means everything before 1975 that is valued at $400 or under. Now what's cool about this for the longest time was $35 per book to get graded. It's now $33. So for whatever reason, they lowered this amount now. I think that's pretty fantastic. Looks like the modern tier lost $2, but you gain it back here if you're submitting anything from before 1975 that's under $400 value, that is. And up next is probably going to be the most, if not the second most unpopular change here. in that both the standard and the express comic book tiers now do both cost more. Standard is for those big major keys. You're allowed to put a maximum value up to about $1,000. So these would be your New Mutant 98s, your She-Hulk #1s. You're going to want to submit these in under the standard. The problem is, standard used to cost $60 per book, and now they just upped it an additional $15 to $75. The express tier was always used for the really heavy-hitting books. Here's where we're talking about those like Iron Man 55s in a high grade. These are the ones you'd want to put through Express. And by the way, Express did and still does have a much better return time. And due to the rising cost of this, that much better return time is very appreciated. Express used to be $100, now it's $120. There is a tier higher than Express called the Walkthrough, and this would be for your X-Men #1s and your Amazing Fantasy 15s, the absolute grails of books that come back with mega market values. And the fee for this is actually 3% of the market value. Let's say you get the first appearance of Black Panther and you're the luckiest son of a gun in the world and it gets a 9.8 and it's worth about $100,000. CGC charges 3% of that. So that would be a $3,000 grading fee. The cool thing about the walkthrough is it's same day, meaning as it arrives in CGC, that gets priority, that will be graded within the same or next day. And next up we have to talk about the changes to CSS and comic pressing. First of all, they just completely got rid of the quick press. Remember that $8, it was almost like a half-assed press thing they offered? Well, that's just completely gone. They just got rid of it, and I think that's for the best. Quick press, I always thought, was kind of a waste of money, to be honest with you, and that's actually speaking from experience. Now, the prices for pressing are very different. Under the old system, modern books, anything from 1975 to modern day, valued up to $200, was $12. But remember, they combine modern and value, so now you can take your 1975 books that are up to about $400 in value, and you can combine them, and it's for $15 to get them pressed now, which is $3 higher than what it used to get them pressed for, but you can now press $300 and $400 value dollar books without having to go into the economy tier. That brings me to the economy. Economy is getting anything pressed prior to 1975, and what's interesting is this used to be $40 and actually now it's only $30, so that actually went down really significantly. Standard and Express, just like the grading costs, unfortunately are much higher. Standard used to be $60 to get that pressed, now it's $70. Express used to be $85 per press, now it's $100. So to recap, modern and value, because remember they're combined, standard and express all went up, economy went down, and there's no more quick press. Now let's talk about those additional services they always offered, starting with reholdering. Reholdering is when you send in, let's say, a cracked or a scuffed, or maybe an old CGC slab, and you just want it reholdered and re-slabbed. Used to be $15, which I always thought was high if it's already with CGC. Well, they just upped it to $20. And that looks like it's a standard across the magazine, across the signature series, across the blue label. Every single seems to be a $20 fee. Unless it's a high value, meaning I guess those express tiers, they would charge $50 to reholder. High resolution scans and imaging was $5. It appears to still be $5. Those awesome custom labels that you can sometimes get on select Marvel and other books used to be $5, and they are still $5. One other thing I forgot to mention, fast tracking, which means getting your turnaround time hurried along. costs $15 now. It used to only cost $10. Remember when I said the price rise in Standard and Express would probably be the second most unpopular change? Here is what I think is going to be the number one most unpopular change, and that is the Prescreen. Used to be $5, it is now $8. So you used to submit 25 books to CGC. If they were brand new books, a lot of times a lot of people would submit and Prescreen for a 9.8, meaning that if it didn't get a 9.8 or it was rejected, they would still charge you $5 for that grading fee. Well, now it's $8. It used to only be a $5 hit, which I always wished was lower than that. Now it's going to cost you $8 for every single book that doesn't even get a slab. That's going to really start to add up, so you got to be extra careful about what you submit into CGC now. To be quite honest with you, this is actually making me reconsider what books I send to CGC. Silly little brand new books that only fetch a $40 value, I may have to stop submitting those and only submit big boys. We'll see. So guys and girls, as a quick recap, here's what I took from this. Essentially, the value tier is gone, and that's actually for magazines, that's for comic books and pretty much everything. It's now just modern, but they let you put the value all the way up to $400. So that's actually, I think, a much better and simplified system. That's going to make that a lot easier. Economy actually costs a little bit less. Standard and Express, though, are significantly more expensive. Luckily for me, I don't submit too much Standard. I mostly deal with Modern and Economy. But for you guys that are submitting major keys, you're going to be a lot in Standard and even Express, and you're going to be noticing that costs a lot more. Reholdering costs more, pre-screening costs more. Pressing seems to be pretty much mirroring the grade bumps, where it's no longer value, it's just Modern is a little bit more, Economy is a little bit less, Standard and Express are a little bit higher, and there's no more quick press. Another interesting phenomenon that I kind of should talk about is inflation. Every single comic has been shooting up sky high this past year. Maybe it's because people are just getting their stimulus checks in the States and everybody's overspending. I honestly don't know. The inflation is real. So CGC adjusting for that does kind of make sense if you look at it in that lens. So I bet you guys are curious to know when this goes into effect, and you might want to hurry along here because this is going into effect pretty soon. The new services and fees apply to all CGC online submission forms completed as of this April 28th, 2021. Submission forms completed before April 28th, 2021 must be delivered to CGC's facility by May 28th of 2021 to qualify for the old pricing. CGC memberships purchased prior to April 28th, 2021 will continue to have the current membership benefits until their renewal/expiration date. So this is pretty much almost effective immediately. If you ever wanted to submit to CGC, you might want to do it this week. Let me know what you guys think. Does this change anything for you at all? Are you going to submit the same amount of books you were submitting before, or are you going to ease back a bit? Let me know down in the comments, and as always, keep on collecting.